But I do want to welcome everybody to another episode of Passports and Poets, conversations about the power of place, the places that change us, and why it matters. I am your co-host, Dr. Chick Morgan, along with my co-host,
Rodney Bursiel,
who is our
photographer-in-chief.
Photographer-in-chief. We have finally established that. And our special guest today is Andy Casagrande, and he is
you got to give the full name.
Andy Casagrande?
Andy Brandy Casagrande.
Andy Brandy?
I just love saying that.
Wait, Andy Brandy Casa? Oh, that's awesome. Okay. Well, that's even better. That's even a more special guest.
ABC.
Oh, that's what that means. Oh, okay. See, you didn't brief me enough here. You're making me fly on my own here. But Andy Brandy is an award-winning photographer of sharks and other creatures, I believe, and a leading shark conservationist. So he is most visibly known, and that was my word, and associated with the Discovery Channel's Shark Week. And there's so much to talk about, what you're doing and the adventures that you've had and how you are helping sharks in this world. But I'm going to ask Rodney to just give us the inside scoop about how you two met.
Yeah, I was on a dive trip going to Guadalupe, and I guess you remember that trip. That was several years ago, but you weren't originally. Yeah, were you originally booked on that trip, or because I think we just randomly ran into you at the hotel or something.
Yeah, it was Ocean Ramsey and Juan. I think we're running that trip.
Yeah, and Mike Bolton.
And Mike Bolton, the silent hunter. And I think I had just come back from Guadalupe, and they're like, "Hey, we're going back to Guadalupe. Do you want to come?" I'm like, "Sure, I'm addicted
Why
to
not?
sharks. Why not?" Yeah, so I think that was 2018 when we first met. So we're stoked to be on your show, man. I know it's taken a while to get this lined up, but here we are.
It usually does with all our most interesting guests. So we really appreciate you being here today. One of the things I learned about Shark Week is it's the longest running cable TV programmed on cable TV in history. And it now is in 72 countries. But I was also interested in kind of the correlation between what was going on in the world of sharks back in the, mid-70s, I guess? And
well, we all know what was going on in
the
70s with sharks.
Didn't want to give him free publicity, but there was a certain film that came out and generated a lot of interest and also a lot of kind of backlash, I guess. And I understand that there's a relationship between the channel with sharks and the interest in sharks, of course, and that movie. Can you fill in some of the blanks about how those things got connected and what it's doing?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, first of all, don't hold it against me that I worked for Discovery Channel and Shark Week and a lot of the networks. No. Because, as you know, and a lot of people know that, media is media, and they create programs to catch your attention, to get you to watch. A lot of it is very factual, and some of it is super hyped up. But the bottom line is, like you brought up, Jaws. And this isn't even my idea or my concept, but a good friend of mine, Jeff Kerr, who's a famous Shark Week producer who pioneered the Air Jaws, the Jumping Sharks franchise or series, whatever you want to call it. But I remember seeing for the first time a great white shark launch out of the water and grab a seal, and it completely blew my mind. I was like, first of all, I thought they were the most amazing predators on the planet to begin with. And then when I learned they could fly, essentially, 20-foot sharks jumping 20 foot in the air, it was pretty much game over for any other species on the planet with respect to my fascination. But back in the 70s, like you said, I think it was 75, Jaws came out. I was born in 77, so I didn't get to see it when it came out, but I watched it as a kid. And it certainly scared the hell out of the entire planet with regards to sharks. It essentially demonized them, anthropomorphized them, turned them into something that was out to get us and something that was a higher cognitive power that was revengeful, lustful, vindictive, malicious, which we've learned now is completely not the case. They can look scary on TV, but it's just humans, that's basically, what's the word? Projection. We're projecting these attributes onto these sharks. But anyway, bottom line is, after Jaws, it became completely commonplace for people to go out and kill sharks. In fact, you were like a hero if you went out and killed sharks. hung them up on a dock in Montauk or anywhere off of California, or anywhere in the world, South Australia, South Africa, you were a hero for ridding the oceans of these demons that were out to eat our children. And it really had a major impact on sharks, not just their image, but their populations. They were the public enemy number one, so to speak, and people would kill them for fun. And like I said, it became this thing where it was completely acceptable. It was actually supported. It was a movement where we have to kill sharks. Well, Shark Week came along in the 80s. And of course, they kind of started out with some shark attack programs, some jaws and claws, they call it, to really grab your attention. And that was the number one sort of thought on people's minds, getting eaten alive by a shark. So you'd watch the shows. And then as Shark Week grew over the years, our psyches grew as well. And we started to see past some of like just the scary parts of sharks. We learned like, wow, they swim between continents. They can dive at 4,000 feet. We see them jumping in the air. They're doing all these amazing things. So it developed this cult community, this following where, as you said, it's the longest running cable television event, potentially the longest running event ever, like a special event or whatever, that people just couldn't stop watching. And then it created these shark lovers, these shark fanatics, where when they saw someone abusing a shark, killing a shark, dragging it behind a boat, cutting its head off, burning its eyes out, these people who were doing these horrific things were getting death threats. They were getting reported to the Fish and Game, getting reported to the FBI. And basically, it started to become a federal issue where certain species were protected because they were so vulnerable that all these shark killers now became public enemy number one. And they became the target. And I thought it was amazing because there's no what's the word? There's no way to refute that sharks are the most famous wildlife creatures on the planet. They obviously have their own week of television every year for 30 plus years. Yes, there's Big Cat Week and Croc Week and all that, but they do not compare. Plus, they equate saying the word shark to the word fire, screaming fire. Like you scream the word shark at a beach, people are going to freak out. Like you scream the word shark at an airport, they're probably going to look around you. So anyway, there's good and bad to Shark Week, but I think the majority of people see they develop a fascination as opposed to a fear. And there's a mix of science, entertainment, hyped up stuff, and there's a little bit for everyone. They have a ton of celebrities now. I mean, like any other network.
That's a whole nother enterprise and celebrity.
I mean,
Shark
you got Shaq in the water. Come on.
That story with him, his agent didn't want him to get out of the cage. Like he's a multi-million-dollar dude, right? Every commercial he does, every appearance he does. I mean, he's such an amazing, really funny guy. But his agents didn't want him to get out of the cage because they were worried. But when he saw his first sharks and saw us out of the cage filming them and filming him from outside of the cage in, he's like, man, I don't feel like a real man. I want to get out there with those sharks. They seem majestic and beautiful. And he started calling himself Sharkeel O'Neal and Shaqua Man. And he literally changed. He went from being fearful to not knowing to loving them. And I've been really lucky to take a lot of athletes, Michael Phelps, Ronda Rousey, Mike Tyson, a bunch of other random, celebrities.
Charlize.
Charlize, mostly athletes out to see sharks, and it completely changes them. They could have had I took the Navy SEAL that killed bin Laden to see great white sharks and bull sharks and tigers. And he had seen some of the craziest stuff on the planet. And he said, this is the most intense, incredible thing I've ever seen in my life. So, I mean, we're here because of sharks. We met out in the middle of the ocean.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting that, to talk about that. And it's like when you go to the Bahamas, typically you stay at, the Bimini Big Game, which is a big fishing area. And you go out there and there's the single boat that's going out for the shark diving. And then there's 50 boats that are going out fishing. And I just want to go up to those boats and go, come get on this boat. You don't need to be catching, come get in the water and get that photo.
Right.
And and that's all it takes. Cause I grew up diving. My dad was an instructor and I was essentially born with a regulator in my mouth, but we were doing Caribbean diving. So I'd never really experienced the sharks. And with Jaws, I had that fear. And even as a kid, I'm in the Caribbean going, where's the shark? Where's the shark? And we got out of the business for 20 years, and I just got back into it about 10 years ago. And my first trip was Guadalupe, and
Oh wow!
not that, but it was a previous one, and I fell in love, and that's all I wanted to do. And so I started asking around about other trips and other sharks, and I started hearing about Tiger Beach. And somebody that I was talking to, I was asked, about the process and what that was like, because it's all open water. You're not in a cage. And this friend of mine, she's like, yeah, well, you go and you get out there, and the lemon sharks, they show up right away and they circle the boat, and then you fall in just in the middle of all these lemon sharks, and you go to swim up under them and get down to the bottom, and then the tigers start showing up. I'm going, oh crap, I got to do this, but I was so nervous. Because it's first time in open water, but when you get there and you literally fall into the middle of these lemons, and they're all around you, and they're not out to eat you. And the second you see that, I saw a video with you the other day. You were talking about that. When you're in the water with sharks, how peaceful it is, and it really is. It's so relaxing. I've
really
got
is.
a photo with 20 lemons just circling around me, and I'm in utter peace.
And if you tried to do that with a clan of hyenas or a pride of lions, like that's
Yes.
why I'm saying that these are like the most polite predators on earth, because you can interact with these predators that could rip your face off and devour you, especially when there's 20 of them left. I mean, one of them could do that to you. Imagine if all 20 decided, you know what, Rodney looks tasty today, but It doesn't really happen. Occasionally there's mistaken identity, of course, but you had mentioned born with a regulator in the mouth. Funny thing is, in 48 hours, I'm taking my family to the Turks and Caicos to get Ace, my son, officially scuba certified. He's 8 years old. Off the radar, he's been scuba diving in our pool, going deeper than they're going to even let him in the class. He's been out to Guadalupe in a cage on a regulator down to 15 feet. He's, he's well versed in it, but your fascination developed as a child, and my kids are, almost desensitized to the shark stuff. They're like, okay, Dad, yeah, sharks. We know they're not out there. Yeah, that's right. They love them, and when they tell their friends, they can't believe it.
I wanted to ask you about that because you have a couple of children, right?
Yep.
And two. And so, like you say, from probably in utero, they were being familiarized with sharks. So how have you and your wife balanced teaching about the thrill and the beauty and the sociability of sharks with, the reality that they're still sharks? I mean, how do you do that with your kids and with other kids? Because I imagine education is a huge part of what you do.
The same way I do it with adults, really. It's like everyone tries to over dramatize what I do and my career as a wildlife filmmaker or whatever. And they're always like, what's the most dangerous situation you've ever been in? I'm like, Uber driver at midnight in San Francisco, running to the airport. Like any of the statistical events that can kill you so much more often than sharks. Yes, we've had a few close calls. My wife almost got decapitated by a tiger shark at Tiger Beach, like full on tigers.
Me too.
Tigers, complete mouth open around her head. It's all on video. We'll never share it with anyone because it's very...
How did she get out of it?
She saved her own life by me screaming, how do you, I couldn't understand that she didn't realize what was happening. She heard me scream underwater. She thought she was in the shot. It was for a GoPro launch video for their Hero 2 housing that made the GoPros in focus. And she thought she was in the way of my shot. But I was like, what the F? How do you not notice there's a shark trying to decapitate you? And she moved out of the way thinking she was in the frame messing up the shot, but she did at the last second push the shark away. She has blonde hair. The shark was being baited in with big mahi fillets, which are white, big, flaky fillets. Her ponytail looked just like it. Plus, it was a frustrating. Yeah, so... But for our kids, we just kind of, we don't really need to tell them a whole lot. They've seen so many films now with us, and they realize that humans are way more dangerous and that cars are more dangerous. And that, so we've taken them out of the cage with the great hammerheads in Bimini. We've taken them out of the cage with a bunch of reef sharks. And you do see sometimes the sharks see them as a smaller target, a potential bite-sized object. So you just have to use common sense. But at the end of the day, there's been plenty of tests with human blood. Everyone's like, oh my God, if I'm bleeding, are they going to come and find me and eat me? And like Mythbusters did human blood versus fish blood, and they ripped the bags open. There's almost zero response to human blood. It's completely not something they're interested in. It doesn't smell, taste good to them. Imagine if you smelled burning plastic as opposed to pizza. I mean, probably not the best correlation there, but anyway, bottom line is I think that they've learned that sharks are really valuable. They're important. And sometimes people that don't live by the ocean are like, why do I care about sharks? Who cares? They live in the ocean. It's like, if you breathe oxygen, you should give a shit about sharks. You should care about them. So anyway.
And you find that that's happening more and more. You mentioned that more people are, when they experience it particularly, they become advocates for the shark.
Yeah, I have not met anybody who has said after shark diving, they're like, these are monsters. I want to kill them. Mike Tyson we asked Mike Tyson at first, he was really nervous. When he got in, he's like, wow, these are amazing. These are like gods. These are like amazing mythical creatures. You're like, you want to do it again? He's like, no, I'm good, man. He's like, if you pay me enough, I'll come back. But it wasn't like he was dying to get back in again. And it's not for everybody, obviously. And obviously, some people see certain people doing, like Ocean, she's famous for riding the dorsal fins of sharks. And she's stopped that a lot. She stopped that in current times. But a lot of people give her a hard time because they're like, well, now anyone's going to try to do that and they could get eaten. It's like, hey, I see Red Bull base jumpers jumping off of cliffs in Norway and flying down the mountain. I don't want to do that. I know I can't do that. Like, put it into perspective. But at the same time, I don't like to see fellow conservationists and people that are really trying to do good attacking each other, because it just dilutes the whole cause, the whole initiative. Like, fight against the real people that are killing sharks and decimating the oceans, not other people. It's like a popularity contest. I think it's funny. I try to not get involved, but I find it sad as well at the same time.
You mentioned Ocean a couple of times. Could you just tell our listeners, because you all are in the club here.
Well, Ocean Ramsey.
Tell us who she.
Ocean Ramsey. She's the most famous female shark diver on the planet. She's got an incredible experience. She's got incredible attitude. And like I said, she catches a lot of flack. She's got millions of followers on social media. She swam with a big great white many years ago out of Guadalupe. She got sort of famous for riding on its dorsal fin. And, she was peacefully interacting. Then they had another encounter in Hawaii, which was an even bigger shark. They thought it was deep blue, but it was 3 different sharks. But she genuinely is trying to do good. She generally runs ecotourism operations. They do beach cleanups. They try to spread awareness and getting people to love sharks. Rodney, I mean, she was out there with us on the trip. I think she's genuinely a great person, but she can walk the walk and talk the talk. As in, I've been in with the water with her many times, and she's faster, more alert, more agile, and better with the sharks than almost anyone I've ever met in my life. Like, so she doesn't just play a shark diver on television. She is the real deal.
It is interesting. The people that are giving her a hard time, and these are the ones that are doing nothing to to bring awareness. And maybe she shouldn't be touching the shark, but she's doing so many amazing things to bringing awareness and stopping this the killings. And so it's and she's an easy target because she's attractive and just a woman in this business.
She's like a Barbie doll, essentially, a swimming Barbie doll. And again, like you said, a lot of the people that are attacking her, I just believe it's jealousy. It's like they're not getting the attention. They're not doing half as much as she is, so that they attack her. But I mean, we see that with everything. So I think it's a shame, but you're never going to really convert haters. I think I love haters. I think they're great. I think it's good to see the other side. I think it's funny to watch them crucify themselves online with stupid comments and show their real colors. But life's too short to focus on the negative sides. And I know Ocean just kind of perseveres and pushes through it. Her Her husband, Juan Oliphant, Juan Sharks, he goes by on Instagram, whatnot. He's an amazing dude. I knew them before they even met each other. I was friends with Juan before he met Ocean, and then I met Ocean through Juan. And they're like the power couple, like the Angelina and Brad of
right.
the shark world.
Yeah, they're doing amazing things, and their teamwork together. It's just they're incredible to watch. So it's.
You mentioned back in the 70s and after the Jaws episode, and then all these people were going out and hunting them and killing them and using them as trophies. How endangered today and how of extinction, either certain species or sharks in general, how would you evaluate that? Like we've been talking to people about the elephants and about the rhinoceroses, and so what's their status in terms of real danger?
So, I mean, there's so many different species of sharks. It's debatable how many exact species now. You can easily say well over 500 specifically shark species, not even accounting like rays and other elasmobranchs. But bottom line is, like, most of the data is coming from fisheries. They're like, wow, we're catching so few mako sharks and so little hammerheads now. So a lot of the catch and historical fisheries data is showing sharp declines. There's really nowhere sharks can hide anymore, nowhere tuna can hide. Like, human fishing practices are so advanced now with helicopters and GPS and locators, and they're using every bit of technology to locate the schools of fish, track them down, catch them, harvest them. So it's hard to say. I'm definitely not a scientist. There's definitely numbers in there, but we've seen a sharp decline in many shark species. And like people, like I said, they often like try to conceptualize why is it hard to why are sharks even important? And a friend of mine told me, like, well, you know, if you think about it, like, let's take turtles, for example, and let's pretend turtles only got eaten by tiger sharks. Now, if you killed all the tiger sharks on the planet and turtles now had no predators, they would eat up every bit of seagrass they possibly could, because nowadays turtles eat seagrass, but they're looking over their shoulder. They're anti-predatory. They need to be alert to stay alive. Otherwise, if they just had their head down mowing the grass, they would get predated on by all the tiger sharks or even other species. If you remove that predator threat, now the turtles eat up all the seagrass. What does seagrass do? It's not only the largest, most productive carbon sink, carbon capture device on the planet, it's also a habitat for small little fish that feed the big fish. If there are no little fish in the ocean, there will be no big fish. And anyone that wants to eat salmon or tuna or any other fish, they're gone because those tiger sharks disappeared. I mean, that's a catastrophic look at it all. But if you start removing predators from each ecosystem, each niche, and their prey species then has free game to do whatever the hell they want, it's all interconnected, just like humans are with each other and the planet and the climate and everything else. I mean, I'm no like ecologist or biologist or perfect expert, but it's pretty commonsensical to me. And again, I mean, Rodney, what do you think? What's your take? I mean, it's hard to really get people. Why? I mean, there's plenty of sharks out there. We can kill as many as we want. They're slow to mature.
I don't get it. And I was thinking about this the other day. It's just one of these random thoughts that popped in my head. And, you know, with sharks, everybody, you know, there's not everybody, but there is this fear of them. But we're still going into their environment. And if you know, we're going to the beach and the government steps in and it's like, oh, we got these sharks, we've got to get rid of them. You know, we got to keep our beaches safe. Well, if you go anywhere else, if you go to Africa, you're not going to jump in a hippo pool. You know, you're not going to jump in the water with crocodiles. No. You know, you're going to go, oh, there's a crocodile in there, so I'm not going to go.
But you do that, Rodney.
Well, yeah, we do, but most sane people don't.
Most sane people don't, right?
But why? You know, what is that mentality that we have to? You know, we have to kill all these sharks to keep the water safe, but, you know, oh, we'll leave the hippos alone and we'll leave the crocodiles alone. And I mean, hell, elephants kill more people a year than sharks do, but we love elephants. You know, why? I wish I knew. I mean, all I can go back to is how they're vilified in movies, and they've got big scary teeth, and elephants have pretty tusk and a trunk.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, they're easy to paint as the villain for sure. And the ocean's a foreign place for many people. Way more people drown every year than, put it into perspective. Last year in the United States, there was one fatal attack from a shark. One fatal attack on a human. It was on Christmas Eve, 5-6 days left to the end of the year. There hadn't been a single attack the entire year. And then the great whites are like, well, we got to keep up our reputation a little bit.
Yeah.
A body boarder in Morro Bay was killed by a great white in murky water at a river mouth where it was raining. All these basically perfect storm of events. I'm not trying to blame that person, but it's pretty easy to see why it happened. And it was an area where they're hunting seals. The California coast is a known hotspot for great whites. So it's sad, but I mean, it's the reality. I mean, to me, if I was killed by a shark, it'd be so much of a cooler story for my brothers to tell at the bar. Like, oh, yeah. What happened to Andy? Oh, he got eaten alive by a great white shark. Holy cow, that's amazing. Or, oh, yeah, he got killed in a Volkswagen. Like, it's, again, I'm joking around here, but at the same time, like, people need to, this is planet Earth. We're not just the only super species here. I mean, to me, COVID was a perfect example of Mother Nature coming in and saying, hey, guys, if you keep disrespecting me, disrespecting the planet, I'm going to give you a tiny little taste of what I can do. 5 million dead people later, here we are still. Again, I don't want to get political or even talk about COVID, but I just think humans need to realize that we are part of a food chain as well. We're part of an overall ecosystem, and we can't just be above the law and above everything. Because sharks can, if they want to eat us for breakfast, they would every day. But we're
exactly, yeah. Yeah, and I've I'm calling out a bunch of my friends right now. I won't call their names, but yeah, I've got a friend of mine from high school. He's a fisherman, and a while ago he posted a photo. He's down at the coast here in Texas and caught I don't remember what kind it was, but caught a shark, and posted a picture of it. And everybody's going, "Oh wow, that's so cool! That's so amazing!" There wasn't one single person that called him out, and I was the only one that did. But because they were my friends, they were afraid to attack me back. Nobody said a word. But if I had done that randomly on Mark the Shark or whoever, any of that kind of stuff, you get obliterated. But yeah, I don't understand that mentality. Why people like if I went to Africa and shot an elephant, my friends would just destroy me. But if I caught a shark and posted that picture, I would get 500 likes and comments about how cool that was. And I don't understand. I'm trying to do my part, but it's
I see the reason for killing animals for subsistence and for survival. And if you're going to eat that animal, I don't recommend eating top predators. They collect the heavy metals, the mercury. Right. Sterilize yourself and not get a vasectomy, then go for it. Eat as much shark as you possibly can. But to me, it's like if you're sustaining yourself, and there's certain cultures that do eat shark, and they go out and they kill the animal and they eat the whole thing, and it's something that keeps them going, keeps them alive, because it's their only option. We, as like Americans and as these first world countries that like to point fingers, oh, you shouldn't do that. There's certain times where I believe it is sustainable, it is okay. And then there's the other side where there's shark fin soup and the greed and the mafia and the black market that just is doing it purely for profit. That's effed up, and I think that's completely unsustainable. So, I mean, there's always a way to look at it. I mean, even like Joe Rogan, I don't listen to his show, but I know a lot of my friends do, and they are really furious with him about his comments on wolves in Yellowstone, thinking that it's okay to go murder wolves. What they don't realize is that wolves, just like the tiger sharks with the turtles, wolves keep the prey items in check. They keep the prey items athletic, healthy. The hunters would get better overall rewards and better overall hunts with healthier prey items, healthier elk, than a bunch of lazy elk sitting around because there's no wolves after them. I mean, I don't know. That's out of my lane kind of thing. But I think when people just blanket want to kill apex predators, well, it's pretty messed up.
Well, yeah, and they just recently did a scientific study on all that and how bringing the wolves back,
the whole ecosystem,
brought the system back, in Yellowstone.
Yeah, there's a beautiful documentary on that.
There's a whole paper, a famous paper called The Ecology of Fear, all about the ecology of fear of animals. I know that if I walk across the street, especially anywhere in America or any metropolitan city, I better look both ways or somebody's going to hit me. I don't care if there's a stop sign, stoplight. You should pay attention. If they killed all the cars and made cars illegal, And then you could just randomly walk across the street. A motorcycle would hit you. Something else would kill you. You can't get lazy and just try to play God in every respect. And then when you think about Australia, where they go and cull, like you were talking about, we don't go in and cull a bunch of crocodiles and hippos so someone can swim around in St. Lucia in South Africa and be like, wow, this is really murky, nasty water, but I want to do it. It's my right to swim here as a human. It's just weird, like in Australia, where they go out and actively cull sharks and they think it's actually making a difference, or they think it's
right.
denting. If anything, they're drawing in more predators to these drum lines, these nets, drawing in more focus to the beaches for predation activity. It just drives me crazy. I don't really know how to handle it. So,
well, my very first introduction to sharks was when I was 6, and we were on the Chesapeake Bay on a little family vacation, and there's an area that is famous for the shark's teeth that wash up on the shore. So, my dad takes me out there and we're collecting. We put them in these old tin coffee cans back when coffee came into it. And I asked my dad, I said, how do they lose their teeth? He goes, well, honey, they lose their teeth just like you do. He said, you got to learn about sharks, and these are their teeth. And I would have these big tins, and they were like my precious things.
You still have them?
I might have a few.
Is that a shark's tooth around your neck or arrowhead?
Well, I'm going to say
No,
yes, but it's a lie.
This is
it's a stone.
whale tail.
The whale tail, and then I was going to say.
Oh, you got the whale tail, yeah.
And this is actually my Jane Goodall. It's the chimpanzee that she released, and when she let it out of the cage, it came up and hugged her. This is his footprint.
No way.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Have you been in the area where she was studying them, or in anywhere? I haven't really done big crime.
No, I haven't done anything. I haven't. But it's on my list, but I haven't done that yet.
Cool, man.
But yeah, she came through Austin a couple years ago and did a speech here at the Paramount, and so I got to meet her. So that was super cool. So.
And are you guys in Austin right now?
We're outside of Austin.
Just outside, about 45 minutes.
Yeah.
In
That's
the
cool.
country.
Like we thought about moving out of Florida and moving to Austin just because I hear it's a beautiful place. I did one film shoot there at a place called Barton Springs, somewhere down there, and then good old Elon's there with SpaceX and Tesla and all that. Like, seems like a big boom going on.
And Joe Rogan's here.
Come on. There you go.
Well, it's the sane and civil part of Texas with beautiful country and lots of trees.
Yeah, we're in Wimberley. We're about 40 minutes
musicians
southwest of
and artists
Austin.
and podcasters.
Podcasters.
People. So
cool. Where's your closest shark? Where's your closest shark activity?
The coast.
Well,
we call it the coast. I mean, the Gulf of Mexico.
You don't want to dive here, but yeah, I mean, Bimini's probably the easiest, for us.
Cool.
Or how Guadalupe, it's we're equidistant, so.
Right.
So that's our next goal. He's taking me on a shark dive somewhere.
There you go.
Do you have yours this year?
I do. I'm running 4 this year, and I'm
probably
good.
Bring my family out again as well. I'm running them on the bigger boat now, so it's easier to have the kids run around without falling off. And but
not knowing about it.
Yeah, exactly. It's cool. Just like out of all the people I've taken shark diving, I've had police and paramedics, psychoanalysts, suicide survivors that said that sharks saved their life, and watching me on Shark Week helped them get through it. And people that were ghost hunters, total people that if you looked at politically, like super hardcore Republicans, super hardcore liberals, but when they get on the boat, on Facebook, they would hate each other. But when they got on the boat, out of the 150 people that I've taken shark diving now, or more, maybe 200, none of them have ever argued. They're all united by sharks, which is so cool because they, like I said, on the internet, if they never met each other and they saw each other's comments, they probably would hate each other. There was actually a guy from Austin there, and he was wearing a bracelet that said, "I'm vaccinated and proud of it." He was a Texan dude. And most people would think, oh, these guys from Texas, they wouldn't be vaccinated. And anyway, the people from another place weren't vaccinated, but they didn't yell about it. They didn't fight about it. Nobody cared. It's like all the politics goes out the window and everyone's focused on their passion. And I think it's an amazing way to unite people. So yeah, that's cool. I mean, we met there and
Yeah, I love that thought, Andy, Brandy, because to me that just speaks so much more deeply about what unites us and how the things that we fight about become secondary when we're united around a passion or something that we can learn to care about. So I really appreciate you bringing that up. So maybe the answer, get everybody on a shark boat.
I'm serious. Yeah, I mean, if you're so caught up on politics and your biggest hero is a politician, you need to get out more.
Right.
You need to realize that there's
Right.
more to life than Republican and Democrat. Like, if that rules your life, I feel so bad for you, but I also don't care at the same time. You want to do that, great, but there are so many amazing things on this planet. You only die once. So to me, it's like important to live every single day. That's what I'm teaching my kids. I met my wife in the Serengeti. I was on a 105-day lion shoot for National Geographic. I met Emma. She's from Sweden. She was backpacking through the Serengeti with her cousin. And we met, love at first sight. We even joked the first night we met that we'd have 7 kids and live on a sailboat. We only have 2 kids. We have no sailboat, but we've been together.
But you're in the water.
Yeah. So we've been together now for 17 years, all because I chased my passion for sharks, which then got me a job at National Geographic, which then sent me to Africa to make lion films. And we took our kids there this summer to show them the place, the very spot we first met. And my daughter Nova, she was funny. She's like, "Can you reenact the romance?" It was hilarious. But, yeah, I mean, but yeah,
That's cool though too. I didn't realize that. I've always known you as the shark guy, and I didn't realize that you were so established in because Africa is one of my sharks in Africa. It's just my 2 biggest passions, and if I was offered either trip for free, I don't know which I'd do, because they're just.
Well, you can get sharks in Africa, so I would take Africa. True. Sharks, gorillas, the sardine run. I lived in South Africa for 3 years, and I've been back every single year for 20 years now. The only year I missed was 2020 when everybody missed everything. But yeah, what an incredible place. And my kids have been there multiple times now. We plan every time they wrap the school year right around June 1st, we take them out of America and overseas to Africa. We go to Sweden every summer, and we just kind of switch it up. And I think they learn so much more in the real world than they do in school. In school, I went to four different universities. Yeah, and I memorized. I got a 4.0 straight A average at every single school just because I could memorize and regurgitate. Yes, it helped me a little bit. But the things I learned out of school while I was traveling and real world experience, there's like no substitute for it. So, I mean, you guys, I'm sure you probably learned some stuff in school too, but the stuff you learn in the field completely,
I don't remember anything from school.
There you go.
I think there's some songs about that. Let's write one.
Yeah, geography is the top. It's all the stuff that they teach you in geography, and it's just memorize, regurgitate.
The capitals.
But you don't remember any of that stuff. But the second you go there, it's locked in your brain.
It's just burned in.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, my dad was in the military, so I crossed the Atlantic in a prop plane first time, and I was 2. My poor mother, and my brother was 5. But but living different places and working so many places that countries, I often had to get the atlas and look up where am I going. But boy, those experiences they just make you a better person and I think more interesting person. Certainly made you an interesting person, Rodney. So,
I want to talk more about Guadalupe. It's the only great white trip that I've done. You've obviously done several. People that are trying to get, we're the ones that we're trying to convince to go and do this. I think Guadalupe is probably the spot to go, especially for ease. I mean, the crossing's a little brutal, but once you're there, it's such easy diving, and it's so much fun, and it's actually a very relaxing trip. But of all the shark trips that you've done, what's your top?
So just like you said there, I've done 17 unique locations around the world to film and study great white sharks. I can't name all 17. I actually have the list on my iPhone, which is right in front of me. But out of South Africa, Australia, New Zealand, Cape Cod, California, Mexico. Where else? I already said South Africa. Anyway, and a lot of those locations have multiple hotspots. Guadalupe is by far, because of the visibility, the calmness of the water, the bay there that we work in, it's the most protected, pristine, beautiful place to dive with great white sharks on the planet, because of all those reasons, the visibility is like Hawaii. South Africa has the most horrific viz ever. It's cool because you get really mystique and really like scary shots of them coming out of the murk. But for a ecotourist experience, Guadalupe, like you said, the crossing, you're going sometimes 18 hours on a boat. It's going up and down. But if you go August, September, usually the weather's really good. You get later in the season, October, November, it can also be flat and nice. But to me, it's like I took my little kids there. My kids were 5 and 7 when they went, and they loved it. They couldn't get, I was a little, we had trained them up in the pool on the regulators to make sure they were comfortable. And I thought that my daughter might do it once. And I, it's probably not, it's a stereotype. I thought, oh, my son, he's going to do really well. But my daughter was in there. She wanted to go in without us. She was asking to go with my friends. And my son Ace did too. He got a bit cold. We didn't really have the perfect wetsuits for them. But all in all, like, it's life-changing. I've been there every year. First time I went to Guadalupe was 2006. And I've been there every single year except for 2020, multiple times, and it never gets old, because you come to like learn the sharks' names. You come to learn their personalities. They become your friends. It's like, and then there's margaritas, unlimited food.
Yeah. Well, that was my other thing that I wanted to bring up, was what is such a cool part of Guadalupe is the naming of the sharks.
Yeah, who gets to name them?
Well, And
how does that happen?
It's if there's a shark that shows up that hasn't ever been documented or seen. If there's an organization, I forget the name of it. I'm sure you know it.
The MCSI, yeah.
Okay, yeah. If you send in, you've got to send in the 2 profile shots, and then if you're the first person to send these in, you get to name it. And my very first trip, I actually had one, and the guy was supposed to get with me, and I emailed him. He never got back, and I don't know what happened, but I totally missed my opportunity. But that brought me to, I don't know if this hasn't been done. I don't know why, but now it really has to be done. But since you're there so much, I'm just putting this out there, but there's got to be a Betty White shark.
There we go. I like that. It's funny because I photograph a lot of the sharks out there. A lot of them were their new sharks. But I've named maybe 7 sharks now, and I stopped because I feel like it's not fair where I'm going to take up all the names. But I named one Emma, Ace, Nova, Monkey, another one Oscar after my Swedish brother. And then I named one Andy, the funniest looking one. It's missing part of its tail. It has a funny face, head's drooped over. But often when I take my clients, I do these cinema science expeditions, and we teach them about the research that's involved. Some people want to get into the filmmaking and the photography business. Some people are more interested in just the adrenaline junkie bucket list, shark diving, drinking experience. But a lot of my clients now, we go through every night and check the profile shots, and then I let them name them because I don't feel I feel guilty by naming too many. But Betty White, we're going to get her out there for sure.
Yeah.
Sorry about the background noise. This was the landscape.
Oh, is that the lawnmower?
Is that our cue?
So yeah,
they're hard to come by. I know.
I've got one other question. I want to know how many GoPros you've gone through.
Oh man, I'm in my workshop right now, and I just have it's like a dead GoPro graveyard in here. But over the years, I have gone through a lot. I've been with GoPro officially since the Hero 1. I just was on a call with them yesterday, actually, about live streaming at Guadalupe, because this year I'm going to try to do live streaming with great white sharks this August underwater. So they're still working out all the logistics for that. But GoPros are incredible because really they put like a professional content capture device in the hands of anybody, even my kids, like anyone. It's like a 1-button push as long as it's dialed in. A lot of my clients have actually shot footage that's got onto Shark Week. I help them negotiate the contracts, get paid for it. And, it's GoPros are amazing, man. But you're past the GoPros. What do you shoot with?
Well, my underwater rig is all Nikon D850, but I just got the Z9, and I mean I've had it like I got it 2 weeks ago, and when I bought it, I wasn't even thinking that it's a different card. So I get this thing home, and I'm going, I don't have a card for this. So, so I just got the card, and I shot it for the first time the other night. I had a thing with Billy Gibbons, and so I was, and it just, it's insane. And I mean, eventually, yeah, it's because somebody, I was reading something just recently, and they were talking about they got it, and there's just ridiculous wait list right now because they're just, they're not being processed fast enough, but like everything else.
Yeah, that's cool. But I mean, being filmmakers and photographers to me is like the greatest job in the world, because I often, I wanted to be a marine biologist. I wanted to be a shark scientist when I was young, and I moved to South Africa to work with a research team. I was taking photographs back then with slide film, and I was taking the most horrible photographs in history. They're all out of focus. I was mainly trying to do dorsal fin identification. But anyway, I was assisting these scientists, and National Geographic came down to make a documentary about what we were doing, offered me a job as a safety diver to back up the primary cameraman. And at that time, I was starting to push the envelope a little bit with the sharks. They thought I was a bit crazy, hardworking, passionate. They offered me a job at Nat Geo, and then by total accident, I became a filmmaker. But I often tell people, that's why I love the whole concept of cinema science, where you can write the best research paper on earth, and a few thousand people might read it, but you can make one short YouTube video and billions of people watch it. So the power of media and the power of audio visual is so much more pervasive than just text on paper. And I'm not trying to discredit science at all. I'm a massive fan of science. I think cinematography and science really complement each other. But working as a filmmaker, it's an extreme honor, because we really are inspiring people. And it's so much fun to get out there, do the dangerous stuff, come back with the goods, have it all polished up. You're sitting on your couch, or you're still back out in the field again. It's broadcasting to millions, if not billions. And it's just like this constant gratification process, and then passing it on to kids and other people. It just gets better and better and better.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, that's a great way to, I think, wrap up, and the passing it on to people and your kids, which ultimately is what this is all about for you and for many, many others, and for people like myself who have learned so much by listening to people like you before I get down to Guadalupe and the actual experience.
Well,
I'm working my way up to
he's
it,
got
Andy.
4
Randy.
trips, so pick one.
I want the least bumpy boat ride. To me, that's scarier than any shark.
That's what your seasick pill and your bottle of
There
wine
you
get
go.
you through
Yeah,
it. So.
right. Something to make.
Well, guys, I
us
really
sound
appreciate
crazy.
I appreciate being a part of this, and sorry
Thank
it
you
took so
so
long
much.
to line it up. Thanks for the
No.
persistence. And
You're
sorry
a
about
busy
the
guy,
lawnmower.
and we're really grateful that you made the time for us, and we can't wait to get this out on our podcast, which is now a video podcast on YouTube, and get the word out to so many more people, just exactly like you said. So thank you so much, Andy. Brandy
Thank you, Andy.
Thank you, guys. Let me know when it's going to air, and I'll check it out.
We definitely will.
We'll do it.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Peace out. Thank
All
you.
right.
So once again, we would like to thank not only our special guest, Brandy Casagrande, but we also want to be sure to thank Rupert Neve Design, who very graciously supplies some of our equipment for this wonderful experiment and experience that we're having with our podcast. We want to thank Donovan Frankenreiter for our intro and our outro music. And we also want to thank KWVH 94.3 FM, WimberleyValleyRadio.org, our local radio station who rebroadcasts our podcast on a weekly basis. You can find us under Passports and Poets, under their shows and their programming. So we want to thank the radio station for that. And most of all, we want to thank you, our listeners, for tuning in again and helping make these conversations about the power of place, the places that change us, and why it matters.